Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 40 of United City Randomiser. Today is going to be a transfer squad special type of episode. It won't involve an actual game in it, but this is just preempting the 5th season that we've just started. You can see we played a couple of games already, so we're just in the early stages of season 5. So we're going to go over what we've done in the transfer window over the summer. You can see we're at the 10th of September, so the transfer window is closed. All of the jobs have been done for that. We've got quite a lot to get through, but the first thing I wanted to talk about, and the reason we start on this page specifically of the game, is this one here. The panel in the bottom right hand corner, the financial and salary panel. And the reason that that's important is, if you remember, at the back end of last season, by the time we finished last season, we were in the red by about 20 million. It was a very specific ploy that I used last season. We wrecked the finances of the club a bit to get some players in, to change the wage structure slightly, get some better players in, and that gave us the opportunity to get to the Champions League. In terms of, we finished 4th, I think, in the end, and that gave us an opportunity to qualify for the Champions League. It was one season that I specifically wanted to do it, to see if we could get European football and start to build our club up. So what happened in the summer was, having got the European Champions League, we could attract some different types of player, obviously, because of that. And so part of what we did over the summer was we addressed our finances completely. So we're in a much better position now. Our overall balance is really positive at the start. You can see we've got a couple of million left in the transfer budget. I'll talk to you about what we spent in a little while, but that's decent. And for a club that have qualified this season for the Champions League, we're only spending £619,000 a week on wage budget, which is really positive. See, we got lots of movement in that if we wanted it, for those that might need new contracts through the season, etc. But really positive. And of course, we've got the addition of at least half a dozen extra games through the Champions League, so that will give us some revenue there as well, depending on how far we get in the competition. Having spoken about the Champions League, you can see up in this bit we've got a couple of games coming up against Milan. They are in our group, and I would suggest to you that they're probably not even the hardest team in it. We also have PSG in it, and Basel as well. It's a tricky group. It's going to be really hard to get anywhere from this, I think, but we're going to give it a really good go. You can see we've played 4 games already this season. We've won 2, drawn 1, lost 1. One of the victories that we had was really strange against Bayern Munich. We beat them 3-2 in the last couple of minutes of the game. We got a winner, having been 1-0 down. We came back into the game, eventually got it to 2-2, and then about 89th minute, Alphonso Davies, who finished last season really well and has started this season in the same way, he got a winner for us against Bayern Munich, which was an incredible result early on in the season. I'm really sorry that I didn't show it now as a game that we played on these episodes, but the transfer window hadn't closed, and that's what I always do. I come back at the point where the transfer window is closed. So next episode, we've got Hertha Berlin, and we might play Milan as well. I'm not sure what we'll do, either a double header or we'll play Hertha and then maybe the Milan away game possibly in the next episode from that. I don't know. We'll figure that out as we go. But today, as quickly as I can, it will probably ramble a bit and be a bit longer than normal. We're going to go through what we did in the summer. And I think it's fair to say we did an awful lot more than I thought we were going to be able to. So if we go and have a look, firstly, this is Denilson, and he won't be joining the club until the 1st of January. And I suspect when he does, he'll go into the reserves for half a season through till next summer. But you can see, as a central defender, he's got the basics of a very good player in him. If we can get him in January and then give him half a season in reserves and maybe bump up a little bit a couple of these stats, I think he's really good for the future. So that's why we bought him in for 3.7 million, I think his release clause was. I thought it was worth it to take a punt on him for the future. He's only 17, plenty of room for improvement. He'll be coming in the future. And now we go to what we actually have already done, and there's a lot more there than I thought there was going to be. We got a budget of about 7 million to spend, But we upped that through changing the wage structure around and other bits and pieces, and we also then upped it by selling quite a few players and getting quite a few higher wage players off of our wage bill, which is really positive as well. There's lots in there that you'll recognise. A couple like Korb and Warling and Giannis, I'm not going to even bother to try and pronounce the second name. They all went, and these two on decent money because they were only sort of 17, 18, and the potential's there. I just didn't see that they would fit into the way that I want to play and the style of player that they were, so I let them go, and that was one of those things I'm more than happy with. But you can see they brought in at least 10 million between them, and potentially rising to about 15 if things go our way in the future for them. So that's really positive. Other than those three on the out list, you can see we've got a lot of our recognised, experienced players, and there's two reasons why most of them have gone. One, their age is pushing it a bit. There's a couple of over 30s in there. And two, if we were to bring them in again on a new contract at some point in the summer, because some of their contracts were running down in the next season or two, their wage demands would be way above what I really wanted to pay for them. And I think some of them now have gone as far as they can in terms of the quality that we need moving forward. The likes of Heiss, if we go in and have a look, has been a brilliant left back for me. But you can see he's only an average left back really. He's got a couple of decent stats around and he's not bad, but he's not brilliant either, and he's 31. So it's the likes of him that have had to move on for us to move our club on. And boy, have we done so in quite a radical way. This is quite a young setup that we've got. We've bought some experience, don't get me wrong, but we've also got quite a young setup now. If you think that the likes of El Neni have gone, and Malcolm, who we had on loan, has also gone back, and we couldn't get him. The likes of Gundogdu and Siflidis have both had to step up and become our main guy in their positions this year, even though they're like 18, 19 years old, whatever it is that their age is. So we're working from a young foundation. So who did we bring in? Well, we'll try and go through this as quickly as possible. Mason Mount and Burnich and De Silva are free transfers. So Mason Mount, his contract was at an end, and I wanted a replacement for Marin. The reason I brought him in is because he plays in both these central midfield positions, on the central midfield line and the attacking midfield line, because we play a Mezzala role on this line in one of our formations, and we play an attacking midfield player in another of our formations, and he can play both those roles. So that was really helpful to me. And so we bought him in, which is really positive. We bought him on a free transfer, and look, he's worth 31 million at this point. So if somebody comes in for him a couple of seasons down the line for a decent amount of money, why wouldn't we take it? That's decent business, I think. Burnich has been around the club for a long time. He's not the best player by any stretch, but he's a decent enough player, and he's done okay for us. So eventually, after having him on loan for 5 seasons, his contract ran out, so we decided to pick him up. He's not going to be here forever as one of our main guys, but for this season he's got a key role to play. So that's Burnich. De Silva, Jay De Silva, we bought him in on a free transfer. His contract ended, so he left his previous club and he's now come to us. And I think having looked at Heiss already, you can see he's an upgrade on Heiss, which is a positive, and he's not going to be our first choice number one left back. So you can see we've upped the quality of both first choice and reserve choice as well, because Harder's left, who was our other left back from last season, again not quite up to the standard we wanted. So those are the three transfers. We also have a loan player, and this is one of our strikers. We also extended a loan from one of our previous strikers from last season. I'll leave you guessing as to which one of the two that was going to be. But this is now our number one striker. Hasn't started brilliantly yet, but it's really early days. But we bring him in from PSG on loan. He's worth 47 million as people look at him. But he's only on a small amount of that wage for us, really, which is a positive. But I think he's an upgrade on what we've had last season, definitely, as a whole. And I think once he gets going, the only one that I'd really like a bit more is composure on his striking. But other than that, once he gets going and gets a couple more goals in him, hopefully we've got a decent enough striker that we can base our side around as we move through this season. As I say, I'll let you see the other one that we have on loan in a minute that we had last season. Gregor Schweiger, he's our young right-sided midfield player. Again, 17 years old. This is going to be a theme now for going through some of the other players. I know he's got some gaps, but he's only 17. And I think given a good season where he will play fairly regularly, because we only have 2 right-sided wingers, one being Gundogdu and now Gregor Schweiger, he is going to get games this season. And so these stats will all improve as the season goes on. And I think we've got a really good potential superstar possibly for the future. His crossing and dribbling were the things with a bit of pace, bit of acceleration, flair, determination. They're all good. So there's some good stats in there to start, but he will improve. The next one, Nobuki Saiki. Sounds Japanese or something, but actually is German. So there you go, Saiki. He comes into the club. Again, 18 years old. He's going to play in rotation with Burnich this season. Burnich will start most of the key games in the first half of the season, but I don't think it's going to be long before this guy takes over. He's got lots of 13s that if we could change into a few 14s here and there, becomes a much better player for us. And so I think he's going to be really good moving forward. He's had to play the first 5 games of the season because if you remember, Burnich got such bad injury, broke his leg at the back end of last season. He's only just coming back to fitness now. So Saiki was thrown in at the deep end and has done very well for us so far. We will settle him into a rotation pattern with Burnich, but so far so good, and I think there's a lot of potential for him still to progress in the next season or two. So he's the other deep line playmaker that we have. Then we come to Reinhold Breyer, and he is our reserve right back behind. Have we already spoken about the other right back? No, we haven't got to him yet. Breyer. So he's the sort of rotation reserve right back. Again, 18 years old, and he's got some decent stats already. He's still a good option at this point, and he is going to improve. I don't really understand why he's come in the club, only played a couple of games for us so far, and all of his ratings seem to be dropping. But I'm not worried about that because he will get more games in the next few months, and those will start to rise in key areas again, I hope. But I think he's got some really good stats here. The things that I'd like him to work a little bit on are things like his work rate, getting up and down that right-hand side. But other than that, there's some key stats that are already very good. Physically, I think he's great. So, yeah, that's another real potential for the future. So who's he understudy to? He is understudy to Christian Mania. And he cost us 3 million. Again, this is a decent upgrade, I think, on what we've had before. 25 years old. He's only on 24.5 grand a year. A year? Yeah, I wish. A week, which I think is decent for what we've got. He hasn't got a whole ton of potential at 25, but he's a solid right back. If we could change a couple of these 12s into 13s, that would be better as the season goes on. But he's got some decent enough stats. Hasn't started brilliantly yet, but that's okay, early days. I think he'll be decent enough whilst we bring through Breyer, who I think has got much more potential as the next 2 seasons or so comes along. So watch out for this guy as we move forward. But for now, Mania will be our first choice right back. This is a real sort of backup player at this point, because he's, again, 18 years old and we've got a couple of options in his position. He'll play understudy to Siflidis, who will be our central midfield player in our formations, and he'll be the third choice in this position. We've got one more to show you as well. So what you can see about him is he's not the best physically yet, but I think he'll develop there. Mentally, again, he needs a little bit more determination, which is unfortunate, but he can improve there. But if you look at what his job is as a central midfield player, he's got decent passing, he's got decent technique, he's got decent vision, he's got good decisions, and that can get higher, I would think. So I think there's a player in there. We might just have to tease it out of him a little bit, but he's got a whole ton of potential again. So he'll get some games. I don't think he'll feature heavily this season, but he'll get some games and hopefully improve. So we talked about De Silva coming in as our left back. This is the other left back. People know this guy from playing Football Manager, I'm sure you do. Federico Di Marco. And he's come in How much did we spend on him? It was 5 million, which isn't bad at all, considering he's now worth 9 already. Again, 21 grand a week is not bad at all. It's got a little bit more room for improvement in his attributes, but on what we've had before in Heiss and Harthers, it's a definite upgrade again. Decent determination. He's got natural fitness, bit of pace about him and good acceleration, but crossing is good, marking's all right, tackling's decent for a fullback. He's got decent enough work rate and stamina, although I'd like a little bit more there. I think, he's an upgrade on what we've had. He might not be the best player in the world, but he's certainly going to do a decent enough job for us in rotation with De Silva, who I think, again, has got those similar sorts of decent stats for the position that you want him to play. So really happy that that's an upgrade as well. And this is our other central midfield player, Jan Bischler. And he's come in to play as a rotation option for Siflidis. Again, 18 years old, some really good young talent. Decent passing, decent vision, decent decisions. First touch could be better. Hopefully we'll work on that with him. He anticipates the play well. Really good physicals. Good determination. So there's some really good stats in here again, some good attributes in him. And some of these players are going to take a while to settle and find their feet, I think. But there's some really good young players there. So the only other one was our other striker, and it was either going to be Nmeka or Silva, and it was Silva. And the reason for keeping him is he didn't do particularly well for us last season. Let's go and have a look at his stats for last season. Look, he was on loan. He only scored 1 in 20, for goodness sake. He didn't play well at all. He hasn't started brilliantly in terms of average rating this season, but, we're in early days. The reason that I kept him is, one, I couldn't find anybody better in terms of their attributes and the age that he is. He's now 20. And his attributes look really positive. He's got good composure, good finishing, good dribbling, good first touch, good passing, decent penalty, good technique. Off the ball is great. His physicals are pretty good. His decisions are very good. There is a player in here, and I couldn't quite figure out why he was so poor last season. So we're going to play about with his role type maybe a little bit here and there this season and see what we can draw out of him, because he's a good player. And he should be getting more than he did last season. So we're going to give him another opportunity to do that. One, I couldn't find the value in the market to buy anybody with the money that we had. And two, I couldn't find a better attribute loan. His attributes show that he's decent. So now all he's got to do is prove it. So we're going to bring him in, another opportunity. He got 1 goal in our cup game that was really easy. We won 6-0. So that's his goal so far. The rest of it's been a bit average, but come on, Silva, you can do it. And it's the best I could find, in all honesty. So that's our squad, along with the normals. Kabul came on leaps and bounds last season, is now our first choice goalkeeper. The weak part of our team, and the one that I wasn't able to do anything with, is this area, the central defence. They're not the strongest 4 central defenders, although they're all okay. So we'll see which 2 sort of show up more in the season as we go through. But at the moment, it will be Gimba and Kempf, as it was last season, just to see whether they can stake a claim. And so far, so good. They've done okay. But it's the weak area of our squad, definitely. You can see the rest of our squad has got lots of potential through it. And so next summer, we might have to do something about the central defence if we want to bring that in line. Obviously, we've already started that with Denilson, the young guy that's coming in January. Won't get games this season probably, but by the time next season comes around, you hope that some of his ratings will have gone up a bit, and he's already a decent option. So that's, an option for the future as to how we're going to move our defence forward. So that's basically the roundup of the squad. We've seen that we're financially really solid. So let's go and have a look at what we've done this season and what we've got coming up. So you can see we had a decent set of friendly games. We got a really good win against Arsenal, a decent draw, but it was a bit dull against Monaco. So those were our tough games, and we did really well in them. The rest were fairly easy. 7-1, 3-0, 4-0, that's what you can see. Started really poorly against Wolfsburg, who are a tough side. We always struggle with Wolfsburg a little bit, and they beat us in the end 2-1. But since then, we've done pretty well. A couple of wins in the league and a draw in the league against Freiburg, which was disappointing, but we have those games. We're still inconsistent. Hyde was our cup match, and they're a lower league side, so we dominated them 6-0 quite comfortably. So that puts us through in the cup. And we don't play again until late in October against Mainz, which is a decent enough game. I think we've got a decent shout of going through there, possibly. So, something to look forward to. It's a bit of an odd setup this season because I think there's potentially the World Cup in December. So we haven't got any games in December at all. We've only got one in November at this point. Whether that changes or not, I don't know. Whether fixtures get moved around a bit. But that's probably where the World Cup's going to happen, isn't it? Because it's the one in Dubai. So the second half of the season is really rammed full of games. And if we get through in the Champions League, not sure we will, but if we do, and we add more games in there and cup games as well, potentially, that's going to be some hefty second half of the season. So, yeah, interesting days to come. We've got Hertha Berlin next. I think that's a decent game for us to be playing. They're sitting 4th at the moment, but I think we can give them a good go. So that's the next game coming up. I'm not sure there's a great deal more I want to say, really, other than to say that, everything else in the club is looking decent. If you go to, our, that's not the one, our staff page, you can see we've got decent levels of staffing in terms of numbers, but also in terms of the quality compared to the other people in the league. So that's really good. Our under-19 side has got some really good potential in it. They're unrealised at the moment, 16, 17-year-olds primarily. But there's some good players potentially coming through. We'll have to work on them a little bit. There's no one in the reserves. I couldn't get the reserves to get any competition, so there's no point putting anybody in it. We very rarely get games other than friendlies. It's just not worked out very well for me in this particular save. I don't know why. It was one of the anomalies of when I set up the game, so that's disappointing, but there we go. Friendly matches don't really do enough for me, so at the moment we don't have anybody there. That's fine though. It saves on the wage budget. So you can see again, finances are decent. We're gonna be in a much better position as the season goes on. This is our climb that we've had since we've taken over the club. So 4 seasons, 4 decent opportunities, 1 to get promoted, stay in the division, and then move forward and get a European Champions League spot last season, finishing in 4th. Who knows where we'll end this season? It might not be as high as 4th this season. I'm prepared for the fact that we've taken a step back in terms of our experience in our side, got a lot more youngsters in for the future, but we're going to give them a really good opportunity. One, to play Bundesliga football and Champions League football this season. Hopefully they'll improve, and in the next couple of seasons again we'll reach higher heights because of it. So that's the gamble for this season. Last season it was financially. This season it's a bit of the age and experience of the squad. We've brought that down, but there's bags of potential there, and so I'm really excited about how we can move this save forward as we go. So yeah, that's the episode. I'm sure it was a bit rambly, but I apologise for that. But I think we've covered pretty much everything that I wanted to. So next episode, we will just come back and play Hertha Berlin, our normal 1 game per episode, and then we'll play the away game the following episode against Milan. So we'll get some Champions League stuff in there. And looking forward from there, we'll probably then play maybe Hamburg, maybe, and then PSG, and yeah. So we'll work Bundesliga and Champions League in for the first half of the season, and then we'll see where we're at come January by the time the World Cup's done and everybody's had a decent rest that wasn't called up. So yeah, that's where we are, that's where we're heading. Hope you're enjoying the save. If you are enjoying the save, then please subscribe to the channel, keep up to date with the videos, it's really helpful. If you've enjoyed the videos up till this point, including this rambly one, then please chuck a like on the videos, because that really helps me get seen by other people, and I want to try and increase the viewership and the quality of my channel, so that's really key. So if you could help me do that, that would be brilliant. But until next episode, if you're playing Football Manager yourself, have a great time doing it. Tell me about what you're up to in the comments below or on my Twitter feed, and tell me what your saves are doing and how your games are going. But until next episode, have a great time doing whatever you do, and I look forward to seeing you then. So bye for now. Thanks very much for watching this episode of the United City Randomiser save. If you enjoyed the video, then why not click on the like button, as that would really help me. If you think you know anyone who would really enjoy my Football Manager content, then feel free to share this with them. But most importantly, if you would like to join my United City here on YouTube, then hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with my video releases. If you have anything you want to say about the United City save or the channel itself, then feel free to leave a comment below, but please try and be nice with each other. That'll do for today, so until next time, stay happy and healthy, and I will see you soon.